To tackle the unprecedented numbers of people risking their lives to enter its borders, Europe is spending hundreds of millions of euros to fortify its frontiers.
През 2013 година българо-турската граница беше пресечена от приблизително 8500 иммигранти.
بالبداية لو ضليت بسوريا أحسن لي كان لا في لا كهرباء ولا في لا مي.
It's not easy. You see these conditions. They treat us like a criminal.
Bulgaria is Europe's poorest country. In 2013, from just a few hundred entries a year, more than 11,000 migrants and refugees crossed into Bulgaria from Turkey, many fleeing war in Syria and Afghanistan. The unprecedented wave of refugees coincided with the completion of Greece's €3 million anti-migrant fence, sealing off its land border with Turkey, once a major gateway into Europe. Since then, increasing numbers of migrants and refugees have entered through Bulgaria instead. We had arranged to meet with Commissioner Stoyanov of the Bulgarian Border Police to find out more about the situation on the ground.
През 2013 година българо-турската граница беше пресечена от приблизително 8500 иммигранти. Такава миграционна вълна не беше позната в българската история. Това е схема на българо-турската граница.
Is this the area where 8,000 people crossed last year?
Да, това е зоната и това са приблизително 85% от лицата влезе през цялата българо-турска граница. Нейната обща дължина е 274 км. На българо-турската граница 3 гранично контролно-пропускателни пункта.
So Commissioner Stoyanov is going to show us the control room.
Които извършват 24-часово наблюдение на държавната граница 7 дни в седмицата.
Тия са в първата част на интегрираната система, която управлява 6 стационарни големи камери и 48 по-малки камери, 2 работни места, които са за втората част на интегрираната система, която в момента се изгражда и предстои нейното изграждане до Черно море.
How often do you detect people coming in here?
Ежедневно.
Do you see people only when they're just by the fence, or can you catch them before?
Просто действието на самите датчици е по-голямо, отколкото излиза извън обсега на камерата.
Taking a cue from Greece in tackling migration, Bulgaria had just completed its own €3 million razor-wire fence, spanning the 33 kilometers of its border with Turkey, where most migrants and refugees used to cross.
От тук започва и инженерно-техническото заграждение. Преди няколко дни беше официално завършена и влезе в експлоатация. Това ни помогна да намалим състава, който охранява този участък от границата и да ги пренасочим в други уязвими участъци. При задействане на такъв датчик при преминаване на обект, камера извършва заснемане и дава алармен сигнал в локалния координационен център. Съответно, оттам направляват действията на граничните патрули и ги насочват, за да задържат самите иммигранти.
What can you do and can you not do?
Съгласно закона за МВР, ние може да използваме всички разрешени от него средства. Много е трудно да се цитира цял закон, но гранична полиция има правомощия да не допусне лицата да навлязат на наша територия, ако те са все още на съседна. В този случай ние уведомяваме турската страна и те предприемат мерки по задържането на лицата на тяхна територия.
Once migrants and refugees make it into Bulgaria, under EU law, they have to be processed and accommodated. To avoid this, just like in Greece, Bulgaria relies heavily on collaborating with Turkey to stop people before they reach the European border. The fence itself is just a final obstacle. Initially, it contributed to an overall drop in migration, but towards the end of 2014, migrants found new entryways and numbers went up again. The EU has condemned both the Greek and Bulgarian fences, and even Europe's external border agency Frontex seems critical.
Border control is not the solution for irregular migration. This is just a very small piece of the puzzle. Managing migration encompasses many other issues. Development in the countries of origin and in the countries of transit, and readmission agreements with the countries of origin. Border management alone will not solve the problem of the irregular migration.
Despite the verbal reprimands, Bulgaria's decision to build a fence has not impacted on the EU funds it receives to tackle migration, which since 2007 amounts to 137 million euros, or on Frontex sending joint operations to the area. We met up with one of their patrols.
You're now patrolling together. You've been doing that for 2 weeks. Is it efficient for you to be able to work together like this?
Do you think it's good?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's for me, it's really perfect.
And do you find it helpful for your work as well?
D'être ici et d'avoir autant de frontières que ça, de pouvoir un petit peu s'acclimater à la nature, peut-être regarder par terre les papiers, les herbes foulées, les empreintes de pas, etc. C'est beaucoup plus un travail de garde-frontière.
How many European borders have you been to with Frontex?
À l'heure actuelle, 2, mais je peux pas vous dire lesquels.
Do a lot of people come through the forest?
In this moment now, this moment is quiet.
What's their sort of feeling when they get caught?
They are ready about this. They are ready that they will cross illegal. They know that they cross illegal. The problem is with the children and the women. They are afraid. It's no good place for them.
It's not only the Bulgarian border police that was caught off guard by a more than 7-fold increase in migration. The migrant reception centres were completely unprepared. After taking the risk of crossing the border, refugees have faced deplorable conditions in overcrowded camps, often lacking even the most basic facilities. The focus of much criticism has been the refugee camp at Harmanli, close to the border with Turkey. In 2013, many refugees complained that the conditions in the camp were worse than what they left behind in war-torn Syria. In the middle of the winter, they found themselves living in unfinished buildings or rotting tents, without heating or hot water, and a shortage of both food and staff. However, when we arrived, it seemed like conditions at the camp had improved.
So now we're going to meet a guy who lives in this container village within the camp, and he's been here for almost a year now.
Welcome, madam.
Thank you. I'm Milan.
I'm Robert. Mama, no, this is Hey.
Is this what you got for lunch today?
Hey.
What is your experience of having lived a whole year in a refugee camp in Bulgaria?
نوم ما حلوة عذاب 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 بالبداية لو ضليت بسوريا أحسن لي كنا عايشين بخيمة 8 أشهر لا في لا كهرباء ولا في لا مي نوم ما حلوين هلا أوضاع إنه أحسن من قبل ما كان يهتم بحدا بس هلا عم يهتموا شوي.
What were you hoping to find when you came to Europe?
كنت مفكر إني أشوف أوروبا.
We're going to meet the director of the camp.
Първоначално условията бяха много зле, тъй като това беше изоставено военно поделение. Хората спяха на палатки, дърва. На дърва се затопляха, готвиха се, бяха тежки условията, но благодарение усилията на нашето правителство и на Европейския съюз, нещата се подобриха. Построихме, бих казал, нещо от рода на 4-звезден хотел. Благодарение на финансовата помощ на правителството и на Европейския съюз, на Висшия комитет на бежанците ВКБОН се води, който отпусна доста пари за ремонтиране на района, на сградите, построяване на нови неща. И тази грижа към бежанците, те забелязват.
How many people arrive now every day?
Да, идват между 30 и 50 човека всеки ден.
Is that less than what it used to be?
Увеличиха се хората. Сега подготвяме за 300 човека.
This is huge.
Да, очакваме, защото горе-долу сме понапълнили нещата и ние сме готови, тъй като ние оставаме основен център в България и трябва да стигнем около 4000 човека.
The brand new facilities, with a kitchen to feed up to 6,000 people, were surprising to say the least. Clearly, Bulgaria was preparing to house a large number of migrants. We went to take a look at one of the older buildings.
The conditions in here are very different from the new buildings. Things are broken, everything is dirty.
Many migrants and human rights organizations have reported that Bulgarian border police have pushed people back to Turkey, which is illegal. There are also allegations of excessive violence, both of which Bulgaria denies.
Were you able to enter Bulgaria the first time you tried?
العسكر البلغاري مسكونا رجعونا يعني هيك مرتين ثلاثة يجينا ومسكونا على الحدود رجعونا على الحدود تركيا إذا بترجعوا بنضربكم المرة الجاية. خافوا الأولاد صغار، صاروا الأولاد صغار تبكي وخافوا بس ورجعنا.
Do a lot of your friends have stories like this?
هلا في منهم حاولوا 10 مرات، في منهم 20 مرة وما اجوا كمان. من يومين اجوا حكوا معي قال مشينا يمكن 19 ساعة داخل الأراضي البلغارية رجعونا.
How come you chose to go to Bulgaria?
قبلي كذا واحد رفقاتي راحوا قالوا لي انه مثلا بلغاريا بتعطي اقامات ومن هنيك تطلع مثلا فيك تطلع الدولة اللي بدك اياها.
Although most refugees hope to continue to other European countries with more opportunities, they find themselves trapped in Europe's poorest country. This is because of the EU's Dublin regulation that requires migrants to be processed and apply for asylum in the first EU country they enter.
So what are the different functions in this camp?
Да, след това минават медицински прегледи, правим досие, минават интервю, така нареченото дъблинско интервю. Второ интервю, в което ние определяме какъв статут ще им дадем. Дали хуманитарен, дали беженски или отказ от статут. Ако им е за първ път, регистрират се при нас и вече се водят за цял живот при нас. Заповядайте. Да, please. Това е машината, да.
Okay.
This is Евродак.
So if anybody applies for asylum here and you have your fingerprints registered here and they go to say Germany or Sweden, they will have to come back here.
Да.
This little box defines which EU state a refugee can reside in. If your fingerprints are taken in Bulgaria, then you can't live in countries like Sweden or Germany, where there are better prospects for migrants, and you'll be deported back to Bulgaria if you try. The only exception to the Dublin rule is if the country you entered doesn't meet the minimum standards for migrant reception, which could be why the EU is investing to improve this Bulgarian camp. Because as of now, Germany, for example, doesn't send people back to Bulgaria because of the bad conditions. With my photo signed by the camp director, we left to check out the rest of the camp.
We're going to meet a Yazidi family who very recently had to flee from Syria because of a crackdown of the fighters of the Islamic State.
كنت ساكن بحلب ولادي صار ضرب بيتي هاد راحت صار اخر شيء حطوا يزيدين يمسكوا يذبحوه لو بيطلع بايدي كنت ما اهجر ليش حطوا ولادي
بقتلوني لو ما يقتلون يعني مثلا بقتلوهم فورا. منك حافظ قرآن ما بتعرف تصلي ايه يلا خال أكترية اليزيديين هجروا إيه طيب وين بدنا نروح؟
Oh my god.
تبع شنغال
العراق وبسوريا كمان هيك صار
هيك. So they just showed me a video of how Islamic State fighters just round up the Yazidis during their underwear, they marched them, and then the last picture was just all of these guys we saw walking in a pile, having been executed.
ليش لا يقاتلونا إلنا؟ ليش لا يشيلوا نسواننا؟ ليش لا يعتدوا على شرفنا؟ ليش؟
We see the new building and it's look good, but we don't know to whom this building. And what is the agreement for this building? Is it to live permanently there or just for a temporary?
What happens when you can no longer stay in the camp?
There is no job, no work, no home, no house, no health care. What happens? I will be in the street because no one who will support me, and I cannot support myself because most of my saving is gone so that I will come here to Europe to save my life.
They're only allowed to stay in the camps until their asylum is granted. After that, they're left to fend for themselves. Many live below the poverty line or end up homeless, whether granted refugee status or there illegally.
So we're in a derelict building where migrants stay if they have to leave the nearby camp called Ovcha Kupul, and apparently they call it the Ritz.
And we sleep in the camp, but they catch us and they tell us that next time they catch us, they have right to keep us in close camp. It's not easy. You see this condition, like a crazy man, but we are not crazy and have many dreams, many future, but all this thing in rubbish, in dustbin. I'm here, sleeping in this condition like a crazy man because of what I'm coming here illegally. And the person who come here illegally, they treat us like a criminal. And the politics is very, very hard to us. Okay, people sleep here. This is my baggage and my SIM that I have, yes, and I sleep here. This is my bag, and I usually sleep here 2 persons, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, they sleep here. You suffer here, you go, they bring you back. Why Dublin law? You have to check how the people live here before they say this Dublin law.
What you are starting to see is an impact of Dublin that even the member states are starting to recognize that the system really doesn't work. You see there are differences in the way the same groups are treated in different member states. The policies and the practices, the current policies and practices of the European Union really support this concept of creating a fortress Europe.
In January 2015, Bulgaria announced that an additional 130 kilometers would be added to the fence to barricade almost the entirety of its land border with Turkey. For the thousands of migrants and refugees already in Bulgaria, the Dublin regulation acts as a bureaucratic wall that prevents them from finding a better quality of life elsewhere in Europe.
Il motivo per cui Mare Nostrum è iniziato e Mare Nostrum è un'operazione per salvare vite umane.
What does the end of Mare Nostrum mean? Per noi è inaccettabile che venga ridotto lo sforzo e l'impegno del soccorso e del salvataggio in mare.
Tous les immigrés qui rentrent en Italie actuellement, il y a des gens qui vont souffrir, ils vont mourir. Vous les Français et vous les toutes les Europes, on en a mal de vous.
Animale qua, come un animale, ma fanculo. Italiano, guarda italiano.